Hello, and welcome to Return to Yahweh Ministries. I am Teresa Lynette. I extend a very warm welcome to you, family. We are here to learn about our Hebrew identity. The Lord has said we have been hidden long enough, and the time is now. The wait is over. He wants us to know who we are, and He wants the world to know who we are. So come along and let's take this journey. We're going to be in part 4 today, but first let's do a recap from last time in part 3. So in part 3, we learned that Abraham and Sarah were blessed with the birth of Isaac in their old age. After Isaac was weaned, Sarah made it clear that she did not like her slave Hagar, the mother of Ishmael. Ishmael is Abraham's first son, and Sarah did not want them to live with them anymore. Sarah told Abraham that her son Isaac would get everything they owned when they died, and Isaac would not be sharing the blessing with Ishmael. So Sarah insisted that Abraham send Hagar and his son Ishmael away. Yahweh agreed with Sarah and told Abraham to do what Sarah wants, because his descendants would come from Isaac and not Ishmael. Sarah died at the age of 127. After Sarah's death, Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for Isaac in his homeland of Ur. The servant found Rebekah for Isaac to marry. So we will begin with Abraham's new family today. We will take a deep dive into the details of Esau and Jacob and decide if Esau was tricked by Jacob or if we are witnessing the divine will of Yahweh unfolding in the lives of Esau and Jacob. We will look at some fun facts about why Esau was so hungry and tired enough to sell his firstborn blessing. We will find out if there were some other details that made Esau not care about the blessing like he should have. This is guaranteed to be an interesting and eye-opening lesson today. Let's take a journey together and put the trickery version of this teaching to rest. I will be reading from the ERV version, easy to read version of the Bible. So let's get started. We will begin in Genesis 25, verses 1 through 11. Abraham married again. His new wife was named Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Jokshan was the father of Sheba and Dedan. The people of Ashur, Laam, and Latush were descendants of Dedan. The sons of Midian were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldiah. All these sons came from the marriage of Abraham and Keturah. Before Abraham died, he gave some gifts to his sons who were from his slave woman. He sent them to the east, away from Isaac. Then Abraham gave everything he owned to Isaac. Abraham lived to be 175 years old. Then he grew weak and died. He had lived a long and satisfying life. He died and went to be with his people. His sons, Isaac and Ishmael, buried him in the cave of Machpelah. The cave is in the field of Ephron, the son of Zohar. It was east of Mamre. This is the same cave that Abraham bought from the Hittites. He was buried there with his wife Sarah. After Abraham died, God blessed Isaac. Isaac was living at Beer Lahai. In verses 5 through 6, we see that Abraham is sending his other children away from Isaac. He gave them gifts and sent them to the east. But to Isaac, the son of promise, he gave him everything he owned, just as Sarah had said. This was the will of the Lord, because the covenantal blessing would continue with Isaac and not the other sons of Abraham. We will now go to Genesis 25, 19 through 34, and learn about Isaac's family. This is the story of Isaac. Abraham had a son named Isaac. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah. Rebekah was from Padan Aram. She was Bethuel's daughter and the sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac's wife could not have children, so Isaac prayed to the Lord for her. The Lord heard Isaac's prayer, and he allowed Rebekah to become pregnant. While Rebekah was pregnant, the babies inside of her struggled with one another. She prayed to the Lord and said, "What is happening to me?" The Lord said to her, "The leaders of two nations are in your body. Two nations will come from you, and they will be divided. One of them will be stronger, and the older will serve the younger." Let's go to the Apocrypha and get some more insight on Rebekah's pregnancy. And for anyone that is not aware, the book of Jasher is referred to in the Bible in Joshua 10 and 13 and in 2 Samuel 1 and 18. So if the Bible refers to it as a source, a good source, and part of the historical record, we can too. So let's go to the book of Jasher, chapter 26, verses 9 through 15, and learn more about Rebekah's pregnancy. Beginning at verse 9. "And in about 7 months, after the children struggled together within her, and it pained her greatly that she was wearied on account of them, and she said to all the women who were then in the land, 'Did such a thing happen to you as it has to me?' And they said unto her, 'No.' And she said unto them, 'Why am I alone in this amongst all the women that are upon the earth?' And she went to the land of Moriah to seek the Lord on account of this. And she went to Shem and Eber, his son, to make inquiries of them in this matter, and that they should seek the Lord in this thing respecting her. And she also asked Abraham to seek and inquire of the Lord about all that had befallen her. And they all inquired of the Lord concerning this matter. And they brought her word from the Lord and told her, 'Two children are in thy womb, and two nations shall rise from them, and one nation shall be stronger than the other, and the greater shall serve the younger.' And when her days to be delivered were completed, she knelt down, and behold, there were twins in her womb, as the Lord had spoken to her. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and all the people of the land called his name Esau, saying that this one was made complete from the womb. And after that, his brother, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel. Therefore, they called his name Jacob." Family, I want you to take a special note that Rebekah is consulting with Shem, the son of Noah, and Eber, son of Shem. Here is a fun fact. Shem is alive to see Jacob, his 9th generation great-grandson, alive, and Rebekah is consulting them for advice. Remember, Shem was a witness and partaker of the flood and the reset that happened here on earth that we learned about in lesson 1 of our Hebrew identity. Family, isn't it amazing news? They were still alive to see Jacob and be an active part of his life. This information was not taught in a lot of the traditional churches when I was growing up because it was no longer in the Bible. The Apocrypha was officially taken out of the King James Bible in 1885. The Apocrypha was included in the 1611 King James Bible. It is my position that no one has the authority to remove anything from the Bible. Did you know the meaning of the word Apocrypha comes from the Greek word apokrypha, which means things that are hidden or secret? There is much to be said about this subject. We will leave it for now and continue our study of our Hebrew identity. Okay, family, I want us to pay attention to what Yahweh told Rebekah in Genesis 25 and 23. The Lord said to her, "The leaders of two nations are in your body. Two nations will come from you, and they will be divided. One of them will be stronger, and the older will serve the younger." And also in the book of Jasher 26:12, it says, "And they all inquired of the Lord concerning this matter. And they brought word to her from the Lord and told her, 2 children are in thy womb, and 2 nations shall rise from them. And one nation shall be stronger than the other, and the greater shall serve the younger." Family, we can see the divine choice of lineage in the prophecy the Lord gave to Rebekah, when she asked the Lord what was going on in her womb. The Lord said to her in Genesis 25:23, the leaders of two nations are in your body. Two nations will come from you, and they will be divided. One of them will be stronger, and the older will serve the younger. Rebekah also received the same word from the Lord through Shem, Eber, and Abraham, when she asked for them to seek the Lord on why the struggle and pain in her womb. Jasher 26:12, and they all inquired of the Lord concerning this matter. And they brought her word from the Lord and told her, 2 children are in thy womb, and 2 nations shall rise from them. And one nation shall be stronger than the other, and the greater shall serve the younger. Family, it is clear. Esau is the older, and Jacob is the younger. This is reflective of the prophecy and word given to Rebekah by the Lord before their birth. Let that gently sink in. So as we continue this study, I want us to ask the question, was it trickery or the divine will of the Lord? Family, as we continue reading, we will see that what was covered in Jasher 26:13 through 15 about the birth of Esau and Jacob is going to be mirrored here as we continue in Genesis 25, verses 24 through 34. When the right time came, Rebekah gave birth to twins. The first baby was red. His skin was like a hairy robe. So he was named Esau. When the second baby was born, he was holding tightly to Esau's heel. So that baby's name was Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when Jacob and Esau were born. The boys grew up. Esau became a skilled hunter who loved to be out in the fields, but Jacob was a quiet man who stayed at home. Isaac loved Esau. He liked to eat the animals Esau killed, but Rebekah loved Jacob. So I would like us to look at the fact that Isaac loved Esau and Rebekah loved Jacob. We will expound on this more as we continue in this lesson to bring out some very important issues about the heart posture of Isaac. Yes, I said Isaac. I have always heard this story told from the viewpoint that Rebekah was a trickster and possibly out of order. But I would like to present a different viewpoint on this issue. Could it have been that Isaac had the wrong heart posture and that he was totally out of order and acting against the will of Yahweh in the Esau and Jacob blessing issue? We will see who else loved Jacob like Rebekah and why. So stay with me and let's talk about it a little later in this lesson. Let's continue on with verse 29 of the 25th chapter of Genesis. One day Esau came back from hunting. He was tired and weak from hunger. Jacob was boiling a pot of beans. So Esau said to Jacob, I am weak with hunger. Let me have some of that red soup. That is why people call him Red. But Jacob said, you must sell me your rights as the firstborn son. Esau said, I am almost dead with hunger. So what good are these rights to me now? But Jacob said, first, promise me that you will give them to me. So Esau made an oath to him and sold his rights as the firstborn son to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil soup. Esau ate the food and had something to drink and then left. So Esau showed that he did not care about his rights as the firstborn son. Family, let's examine the meaning of the name Jacob and see if it's telling us something. Jacob means a supplanter. Supplanter is a person or thing that takes the place of another, usually intentionally. The word can also refer to someone who wrongfully or illegally takes over another person's place. The latter definition has been the viewpoint of most teachings concerning Esau and Jacob, asserting that Esau was tricked. Let's look at the etymology of the word supplanter, which comes from the Latin word supplantar, which means to trip up or to overthrow. Supplantar comes from the words sub which means from below, and planta, which means sole of the foot. Now let's put it together. Jacob came from below, being the younger, to overthrow Esau and take his place. Planta, when Esau was coming out of the womb, Jacob grabbed the sole of his foot. Jacob's name told us who would be in what position and who would reign over the other. Family, do you see the significance of a name? Let's remember our question at this point. Is it trickery or the divine will of the Lord that is unfolding in the lives of Esau and Jacob? Let's keep going and have another look at Genesis 25, verses 31 through 34. But Jacob said, "You must sell me your birthrights as the firstborn son." Esau said, "I am almost dead with hunger. So what good are these rights to me now?" But Jacob said, "First, promise me that you will give them to me." So Esau made an oath to him and sold his rights as the firstborn to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil soup. Esau ate the food, had something to drink, and then left. So Esau showed that he did not care about his rights as the firstborn son. Family, please note the seriousness of what happened here. Esau sold his firstborn birthright for food. Then he promised that he had given them to Jacob. And thirdly, and most importantly, Esau made an oath to Jacob that he had sold him his rights as the firstborn son. We must look at the definition of oath. An oath is a solemn promise, often invoking a divine witness regarding one's future actions or behavior. The Lord Yahweh stood as the divine witness to the oath Esau made with Jacob concerning his firstborn rights. Remember, the actions Esau took concerning his firstborn rights were irrevocable in the eyes of Yahweh. There would be no coming back from this because Esau despised the blessing and did not care about his rights as the firstborn son, as clearly shown by his actions. Family, let me give you a fun fact as to why Esau was so hungry and tired, and where he was coming from, and what he had obtained. That may be a hint at one of the reasons he did not care about the firstborn blessing at that very moment in time. Esau was coming back from killing Nimrod and fighting two of Nimrod's mighty men. So he was famished and tired. Esau also took something from Nimrod that he knew would give him and his seed in particular a very good advantage to rule over men at some point in the future. Let's go back to the book of Jasher and get more insight into this juicy story. Jasher chapter 27, verses 5 through 16. And all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness. But they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and two of his men that were with him came to the place where they were, when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place and drew his sword and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the two men that were with Nimrod. And when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with his sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod, who had left him to go to the wilderness, heard the cry at a distance. And they knew the voices of those two men, and they ran to know the cause of it. When they found their king and the two men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled, and thereby escaped. Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land. And he ran and concealed them in his house. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men. And he came unto his father's house wearied and exhausted from fight. And he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. And he said unto his brother Jacob, Behold, I shall die this day, and wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by the Lord. And Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth, for the possession of a burial ground, Esau also sold to Jacob. And Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for value given. And Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book, and he testified the same with witnesses, and he sealed it, and the book remained in the hands of Jacob. And when Nimrod, the son of Cush, died, his men lifted him up and brought him in consternation, and buried him in his city. And all the days that Nimrod lived were 215 years, and he died. And the days that Nimrod reigned upon the people of the land were 185 years. And Nimrod died by the sword of Esau, in shame and contempt. And the seed of Abraham caused his death, as he had seen in his dream. We just heard that Esau concealed himself from Nimrod, and he lurked about for him. Conceal is to hide, and lurk means to remain hidden and wait in ambush for someone. Esau had clearly planned to kill Nimrod. Esau murdered Nimrod because Nimrod had some valuables in his possession that Esau wanted at all costs. Nimrod had the valuable garments that were bequeathed or gifted to him by his father, and by the power of those garments was able to rule over the whole land. So Esau took the garments and ran and hid them in his house. So let's connect the dots, so to say. Esau came from killing Nimrod and taking the valuable garments that gave Nimrod power to rule over the whole land, according to verse 10. Let's read it again for clarity. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled, and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land. And he ran and concealed them in his house. So Esau said to himself, Who cares about a firstborn blessing when I have something I took from Nimrod that will allow me and my seed to rule over the whole land? We are now getting to the bottom of this matter and seeing Esau's true heart posture concerning the blessing and the murder of Nimrod. I think it's safe to say that this is what gave Esau the audacity to have such a lack of interest towards his firstborn blessing. Could it be that Esau believed he had obtained something greater than the firstborn blessing? Okay, let's look back and have a look at verses 11 through 13 and see what's happening. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men. And he came unto his father's house wearied and exhausted from fight. And he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. And he said unto his brother Jacob, Behold, I shall die this day, and wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by the Lord. So family, do you hear that part? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob. This part right here. For it was so brought about by the Lord. As we see, this was the will of the Lord. Yahweh was in the actions of Jacob and gave Jacob wisdom in how to deal with Esau. Yahweh was on Jacob's side. We just saw how Esau murdered Nimrod to get an advantage and did not care about the blessing, as well as Esau's overall heart posture. Family, this is a good time to ask our question. Was it trickery or the divine will of the Lord? Let's continue reading verse 13 and see what else Esau sold to Jacob. And Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth, for the possession of a burial ground, Esau also sold to Jacob. And Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for a value given. And Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book, and he testified the same with witnesses, and he sealed it. And the book remained in the hands of Jacob. Jacob seals the deal. Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book, and he testified the same with witnesses, and sealed it. And then Jacob kept these official documents of the sale of Esau's birthright and the sale of Esau's portion in the cave of the field of Machpelah. Jacob was cleaning up. This was not just a verbal agreement. Jacob was really wise. We know that people have been known to go back on their word when it benefits them. Jacob did his due diligence to make sure this would not be the case. And let us remember that Yahweh gave Jacob wisdom to handle this matter. We must give Yahweh all the glory for Jacob's success, because in Jasher 27:12 it says, "And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by the Lord." It was Yahweh that gave Jacob the wisdom to do all he did to Esau. This is a good time to ask our question: was it trickery or the divine will of the Lord unfolding in the lives of Esau and Jacob? The documents that Jacob kept concerning all that Esau sold him will prove needful in a future teaching when Esau is up to his shenanigans again, when the children of Israel are living in Egypt. So make sure you subscribe and come back to find out about that in a future teaching. We had an exciting lesson today. Come back for the continuation of this lesson, where we will find out if Esau was really tricked and much, much more. Thank you for listening. We will take our time and keep it simple on a journey to learning our true Hebrew identity. Yahweh has said that his children have been hidden long enough, and the wait is over. Yahweh is concerned about the condition of his people scattered around the world in all nations. He wants you to know that he has not replaced you with a false nation. He loves you, and he is calling you. True Israel, you will know who you are by the yearning and pulling Yahweh has placed in your heart. You will have a knowing, and you will learn who you are here at Return to Yahweh Ministries. I am Teresa Lynette. May Yahweh bless you and keep you, and may his eternal peace be with you always. Once again, thank you for listening. Until next time, shalom, shalom.